MakingAScene.org brings you the psychology of a productive home studio.
So let's dive right in with this really powerful idea from MakingAScene.org. The home studio looks like a room, but it behaves like a brain. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, it means your studio isn't just a collection of gear. It's a space that's constantly learning your habits, training you, and even rewarding or punishing you. It's basically a living, breathing part of your creative process. And look, this studio brain can either be your best friend or your worst enemy. Most of us get stuck thinking that if we just had better gear, we'd be more productive. But the real problem is something MakingAScene.org calls the invisible tax. This is all that hidden friction, that mental fatigue, and all the tiny little decisions that just completely drain your creative energy before you even hit record. So let's really get into that. How is the studio a brain? Well, have you ever walked into your studio, a place you should love, and it just feels heavy? That's what we mean when we say it can be emotionally expensive just to get started. And if it feels like that, your brain immediately starts trying to negotiate its way out of working. And that negotiation, that's where creativity goes to that. A big reason for that heavy feeling is a psychological concept called attention residue. It's pretty simple. When you switch tasks, a little piece of your brain gets left behind, still thinking about the last thing. So if you walk into your studio and the first thing you see is a messy project from yesterday or a bunch of clutter, you're already starting your session with a mental handicap. You're not fully present. So how do we fight this? Well, that brings us to a really crucial strategy: winning at the doorway. You see, the first 10 seconds after you walk into that room are absolutely critical. That's the moment your brain makes a snap judgment. Is this going to be easy and fun, or is this going to be a total slog? And the way you win is by creating what the article on MakingAScene.org calls a default studio state. This is just a simple ritual, a checklist that gets you ready to go with as few decisions as possible. Imagine walking in, sitting down, and your project is already open. A template is loaded, your mic is hot, and you already know what you're working on. The goal isn't to be a robot. It's just to make starting effortless. Now, getting started is half the battle. But what about when you're in the session? That's where we get to our third section, taming your inner casino. I love that phrase. Your studio shouldn't be a museum of 1,000 different plugins and options. It should be a streamlined workshop designed to get a specific job done. And the reason this is so important comes down to decision fatigue. This is a very real thing. The more choices you have to make, which synth patch, which kick sample, which reverb, the worse your decisions become over time. You're literally burning through your limited daily supply of mental energy before you've even laid down a single good idea. So here's the big takeaway, and it can be a tough pill to swallow for creative people. Predictability is what leads to finished work, not more options. A working artist needs fewer, better choices. Yeah, it might sound boring, but you know what? Boring, repeatable systems are what help you finish. And finishing is everything. So how can you build these kinds of systems? Well, there's a fantastic little trick from psychology called the if-then plan. It's simple. You just make a decision ahead of time. If I feel overwhelmed, then I'm going to take a 5-minute walk. If I'm tempted to check my phone, then I'm going to open my task list instead. It completely short-circuits that inner debate and makes good habits almost automatic. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the mental game. Now let's shift gears and talk about the physical environment. Section 4. Designing for flow. This is all about setting up your actual space, both physical and digital, to help you win. And let's be real, the loudest, most distracting instrument in any modern studio is the computer screen. It's like a casino of choices. Every notification, every open browser tab is like a slot machine begging for your attention. And every time you look away from your project, you're not just losing time, you're losing that deep creative focus that's so hard to get back. This same idea of friction applies to your physical space, too. Just look at the difference here. In a high-friction studio, the mic's in the closet and the cables are a mess. Just getting an idea down becomes a whole project. But in a low-friction studio, the mic is on the stand ready to go. You want to make the right choice, the easiest choice. This brings us to a huge mindset shift. This one's a real game changer. Section 5, create, then package. To have a long-term sustainable career, you have to realize that your studio really serves two completely different functions. So, first you have creating. That's the magic, right? The writing, the recording, the mixing. But then you have packaging. This is the admin work, exporting files, naming them correctly, filling out metadata, sending invoices. The folks at makingascene.org point out that burnout often happens because we try to switch between these two very different modes of thinking all day long, and it just fries our brains. And why is separating them so key? Because your best brain power is a precious, finite resource. You want to use it for big, creative decisions, not for remembering the correct format for bouncing an instrumental. That's what checklists and batch processing are for. You have to protect your creative energy. So all of these ideas, reducing friction, simplifying decisions, separating workflows, they all lead us to one final and maybe the most critical point of all. Section 6, the all-important off switch. It's time we challenge this whole culture in the music industry that romanticizes burnout. I mean, listen to this. The World Health Organization officially defines burnout as the result of chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. That last part is key. It's not a badge of honor for working hard. It's a symptom of a system that's broken. So let's just get this straight. Burnout is not a badge you wear to prove how dedicated you are. It's a leak in your business. It means you're slower, it delays your releases, and that messes up your cash flow. Burnout has very real, very serious financial consequences. The only way to plug that leak is to understand a simple truth. Long-term consistency requires recovery, and real recovery requires a dedicated off switch. Rest isn't a sign of weakness. It's an essential part of a professional, productive system. So that leaves all of us with a pretty big question to reflect on. Is your studio a quiet, efficient engine that's helping you build the career and life you want? Or is it just a beautiful trap, filled with amazing gear that keeps you busy but never actually lets you finish anything important? Because in the end, the goal is to build a calm machine. It's a studio designed to reduce friction and simplify decisions. It's a workflow that respects your limits, protects your focus, and has that non-negotiable off switch built right in. That is the real psychology of a truly productive home studio. Make sure you check out the other great articles and resources on makingascene.org, the place the indie artist goes to build the new music industry.